dive into today's episode, I just want to remind you to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. It helps us grow, reach more amazing learners like you, and keep bringing you fresh and fun content every week. So don't forget, like, subscribe, and let's keep this journey going strong. Hello, brilliant idiom explorers, and a very warm welcome back to another insightful episode of Idiom Insights. I'm Emma, your enthusiastic guide, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you again, ready to delve into the fascinating nuances of some more common English phrases. It's always a pleasure to share this learning journey with you as we navigate the colorful world of English.
And I'm Jack, your co-host and ever-curious word detective, here to help unravel the meanings and perhaps share a chuckle or two as we explore the rich landscape of idiomatic English. It's wonderful to be back in the Idiom Insights studio, Emma, and a big hello to all our fantastic listeners around the world. Thanks for tuning in for another dose of idiom discovery.
It's always a joy, Jack. Today we've selected 4 incredibly useful and vivid idioms that you'll undoubtedly encounter in everyday English. Understanding these will not only significantly boost your comprehension, but also provide you with more natural and expressive ways to communicate your own thoughts and observations. These phrases cover superficial understanding, family resemblances, naivety, and challenging a deception.
A truly excellent and varied mix today, Emma. These are idioms that really add character and depth to conversation. Here are the 4 idioms we'll be diving into in this episode of Idiom Insights. First, an idiom for a very superficial investigation or understanding of a problem. Scratch the surface. Second, a phrase for a son or daughter who is very similar to their parent. A chip off the old block. Third, an expression for a naive and inexperienced person who is vulnerable in a new situation. Babe in the woods. And finally, an idiom for challenging someone who you believe is pretending or bluffing. Call someone's bluff.
Those are all fantastic and very common idioms, Jack. Each one paints a very clear picture and is used frequently, so understanding them will be incredibly beneficial for our listeners as they engage in English conversations and encounter these phrases in media.
I couldn't agree more. They're all very practical and insightful. And before we delve into the intricacies of our first idiom, a quick and sincere request from both of us here at Idiom Insights. If you're finding these episodes valuable for your English learning journey and you enjoy our explorations, please take a moment to subscribe or follow our podcast on your preferred listening platform.
Yes, subscribing is the best way to ensure you don't miss any of our future idiom adventures and linguistic discoveries. And if you're feeling extra supportive, a like or a positive rating on your podcast platform truly helps other English learners discover Idiom Insights. We are so grateful for your engagement and continued support. It really fuels our passion for this.
It genuinely makes a massive difference. Thank you all for being part of our community. Right then, Emma, are you ready for our first idiom, which sounds like we're only just beginning?
Let's do it! Our first idiom for this episode of Idiom Insights is scratch the surface.
Scratch the surface. This makes me think of just barely touching something, maybe scratching a tiny bit of paint off a large wall. What does it mean when we scratch the surface of a topic or a problem, Emma?
That's a perfect image, Jack. To scratch the surface means to deal with, understand, or investigate only a very small, superficial part of a much larger, more complex subject or problem. It implies that there is a great deal more to learn, discover, or deal with that has not yet been addressed. You've only touched the very top layer.
Ah, so it's about a shallow or preliminary exploration. And it suggests that a huge amount of information or complexity lies beneath. If you read one short article about a very complex historical event, you have only scratched the surface of understanding that event. There's so much more to know.
Precisely. Or if a police investigation has uncovered a few minor clues but hasn't yet found the main culprits or understood their motives, they have only scratched the surface of the case. It's often used to emphasize the depth or scale of a problem or a field of study. It's a way of saying, what we know now is just the beginning.
It has a similar feel to the tip of the iceberg, which we've discussed before, doesn't it? Both suggest a small, visible part of a larger, hidden reality.
It does. They are very similar. Perhaps scratch the surface focuses more on the act of investigation or learning being incomplete, while tip of the iceberg focuses more on the problem itself, having a huge hidden part. but they can often be used in very similar contexts to mean we've only seen or dealt with a tiny fraction of the whole.
So, if someone starts learning a new language and masters a few basic greetings, they have only just scratched the surface of what it takes to become fluent.
Exactly! There's a whole world of grammar and vocabulary still to explore.
Okay, so to scratch the surface means to deal with or understand only a small, superficial part of a much larger and more complex subject or problem. Ready to hear Mia and Mark use this idiom?
Let's listen in. I wonder what complex subject they might be just beginning to understand.
Mark, I've been trying to understand why our company's employee turnover rate has been so high in the last year. I looked at the exit interview data, and the most common reason people give for leaving is better salary elsewhere.
Better salary elsewhere? Well, that seems like a straightforward reason, doesn't it? If other companies are paying more, people will leave. It sounds like we just need to increase our salaries to be more competitive.
I thought so too at first, Mark, but I had a few informal chats with some people who have recently resigned, and I think the salary issue is only just scratching the surface of the real problem.
Oh, really? You think there's more to it than just the money? What else did you find out?
It seems the bigger issues are a lack of opportunities for promotion, a poor work-life balance because of understaffing, and a feeling that management doesn't listen to employee concerns. The better salary is just the easiest and most convenient reason to give in a formal exit interview. The real dissatisfaction runs much deeper. We've only scratched the surface by looking at that one data point.
That was a perfect example. Mia explained that the official reason for people leaving, salary, was only scratching the surface, a small, superficial part of a much larger and more complex set of problems within the company culture and management.
Exactly. The idiom highlighted that the initial, simple explanation was not the full story, and that deeper investigation revealed a more complicated reality. It showed that what they knew was just the beginning of understanding the problem.
It's a very common and insightful idiom for describing situations with hidden depths.
It is. So next time you are dealing with a complex issue and you realize you've only dealt with a small part of it, remember the idiom, you've only scratched the surface.
And we'd love to hear about a topic you've studied where you feel you've only scratched the surface. What is it? And what are the hidden depths? Share your thoughts in the comments section below this episode.
Great idea, Jack. Let's move on now to our second idiom in this episode of Idiom Insights. This one is about family resemblance.
Our second idiom today is a chip off the old block.
A chip off the old block? This is a very charming idiom. It makes me think of a piece of stone or wood that has the same characteristics as the larger block it came from. What does it mean when a person is a chip off the old block, Jack?
You've got the metaphor perfectly, Emma. A chip off the old block is an idiom used to describe a person, usually a son or daughter, who is very similar in character, behavior, or appearance to one of their parents, usually their father, but it can be their mother too. It means the child strongly resembles their parent in some way.
So it's about a strong family likeness. If a man is known for his great sense of humor and his son grows up to be just as witty and funny, people might say the son is a chip off the old block.
Precisely. Or if a mother is a very talented musician and her daughter shows the same musical talent from a young age, she could be described as a chip off the old block. It implies that the child has inherited the parent's traits or characteristics.
It's generally used in an affectionate or positive way, isn't it? Highlighting a nice similarity between a parent and child.
Usually, yes. It's often said with a sense of fondness or pride. However, it can also be used neutrally or even slightly negatively if the trait being inherited is not so desirable. For example, he's just as stubborn as his father, a real chip off the old block. But most often, it has a warm, affectionate tone.
So it's not just about physical looks, but can also be about personality, talents, or even mannerisms that are passed down from a parent to a child.
Exactly. It covers all kinds of inherited similarities.
So a chip off the old block is a son or daughter who is very similar in character or appearance to one of their parents. Ready to hear Mia and Mark use this idiom?
Let's listen in. I wonder which parent and child they might be discussing.
Mark, I volunteered at my son Leo's school sports day last week, and I got to see our old friend Tom coaching his daughter, Emily's, football team. It was really interesting to watch.
Oh, Tom's coaching football now? That's great! He was always such a passionate and competitive player himself back in the day. How was he as a coach?
He was exactly as you'd expect. very loud, very passionate, constantly encouraging his team, and getting very animated on the sidelines. But what was truly amazing was watching his daughter, Emily.
Oh yeah? Is she a good player? Is she enjoying it?
She's fantastic. She's so determined and competitive, just like Tom was. She runs around the field with so much energy, and she's a natural leader, always encouraging her teammates. She even argues with the referee in the exact same way Tom used to. It was hilarious to see. She is truly a chip off the old block.
That's amazing. So she has the same fiery passion and competitive spirit as her dad? That's lovely to hear. It sounds like Tom has passed on his love for the game to a real chip off the old block.
That dialogue beautifully illustrates the idiom. Mia described Tom's daughter Emily as a chip off the old block because she showed the same passionate, competitive, and determined character traits on the football field as her father, Tom.
Exactly. The idiom perfectly captured the strong resemblance in personality and behavior between the parent and child, highlighting the inherited traits that were so clearly on display.
It's a very common and affectionate way to describe family resemblances.
It is. So, next time you see a child who is remarkably similar to one of their parents, you can say they are a chip off the old block.
And we'd love to hear if you are a chip off the old block. Which parent are you similar to, and in what ways? Share your stories in the comments below this episode.
Wonderful idea, Emma. Let's move on now to our third idiom in this episode of Idiom Insights. This one describes someone who is very naive.
Our third idiom for today is babe in the woods.
Babe in the woods. This sounds like it describes someone who is lost, vulnerable, and perhaps a bit helpless, like a baby left alone in a forest. What does this idiom mean, Emma?
You've captured the feeling of it perfectly, Jack. A babe in the woods is a person who is very naive, innocent, and inexperienced, and therefore likely to be vulnerable, easily deceived, or unable to cope in a new or difficult situation. It implies a lack of worldly knowledge or sophistication that puts the person at a disadvantage.
So it's about a profound lack of experience and an innocence that makes someone vulnerable. If a young person from a very sheltered background starts their first job in a very competitive and ruthless corporate environment, they might be a babe in the woods, not understanding the office politics or the cynical behavior of some colleagues.
Precisely. Or if someone who has never negotiated a business deal before tries to negotiate with a very experienced and cunning business person, they would be a babe in the woods and likely to be taken advantage of. It emphasizes their vulnerability due to their innocence and inexperience.
It's a bit different from a fish out of water, isn't it? A fish out of water just feels uncomfortable and awkward. A babe in the woods is not just uncomfortable. They are genuinely at risk of being harmed or deceived because of their naivety.
That's an excellent distinction. Yes, the key element here is the vulnerability that comes from innocence. The idiom comes from an old English ballad about two young children who are abandoned in a wood and perish because of their helplessness. So it carries that sense of being defenseless in a potentially hostile environment.
So, if someone invests all their savings in a get-rich-quick scheme that is obviously a scam to a more experienced person, they are acting like a babe in the woods.
Exactly. Their innocence makes them an easy target.
So, a babe in the woods is a naive, innocent, and inexperienced person who is vulnerable in a new or difficult situation. Ready to hear Mia and Mark use this idiom?
Let's listen in. I wonder what naive person they might be discussing.
Mark, I was talking to that new intern who just started in our department, a young student named Leo. He's incredibly enthusiastic and eager to learn, which is great.
Oh, Leo? Yes, he seems like a very nice and polite young man. How is he settling into the office environment?
Well, he's very sweet, but Mark, he is so incredibly naive. He takes everything everyone says completely literally and seems to have no idea about the more competitive side of office life. For example, he was telling me how helpful David from sales has been, offering to mentor him and show him the ropes.
David from sales is mentoring him? Mia, David is notoriously manipulative and is known for taking credit for other people's work. If Leo is trusting him completely, he's going to get taken advantage of.
I know. That's what I'm worried about. Leo just sees David as a friendly, helpful senior colleague. He has no idea about his reputation. When it comes to understanding office politics and hidden agendas, Leo is a complete babe in the woods. I feel like I need to gently warn him to be a bit more careful without scaring him off completely. He's very vulnerable.
That dialogue clearly illustrates the idiom. Mia described the new intern, Leo, as a babe in the woods because of his naivety and innocence regarding office politics, which made him vulnerable to being manipulated by a more cunning colleague like David.
Exactly. The idiom captured Leo's lack of worldly experience and his defenselessness in a potentially tricky social environment. It highlighted his vulnerability due to his trusting nature.
It's a very common and descriptive phrase for someone who is innocent and inexperienced.
It is. So, next time you encounter someone who is very naive and vulnerable in a new situation, you might describe them as a babe in the woods.
And we'd love to hear if you've ever felt like a babe in the woods. What was the situation that made you feel so inexperienced? Share your stories in the comments below this episode.
Wonderful idea, Jack. Now, we've arrived at our fourth and final idiom for this episode of Idiom Insights. This one is about challenging a deception.
Our final idiom for today is call someone's bluff.
Call someone's bluff. This sounds like it comes from a card game, like poker. What does it mean to call someone's bluff, Jack?
You're spot on, Emma. It comes directly from poker. To call someone's bluff means to challenge someone to prove that they are telling the truth or that they will actually do what they are threatening to do because you believe they are bluffing. That is, pretending to be in a stronger position or more willing to act than they really are. In poker, you call a player's bet to force them to show their cards, to see if their hand is as strong as their betting suggests.
So it's about challenging a suspected deception or empty threat, forcing the other person to reveal their true intentions or lack of power. If a company is in negotiations with a union and the union threatens a major strike, but the company doesn't believe they have enough support to actually do it, the company might call their bluff by refusing their demands and seeing if they actually go on strike.
Precisely. It's a high-stakes move, because if you call someone's bluff and they weren't bluffing, you could end up in a much worse situation. But if you are correct, and they were just making empty threats, they will usually back down when challenged. It requires good judgment and a bit of courage.
It's a real test of nerve then. It's about saying, I don't believe you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and I'm prepared to face the consequences to prove it.
Yes, it's a direct challenge to someone's perceived pretense. It can be used in negotiations, arguments, or any situation where you suspect someone is making threats they can't or won't back up.
So if a child says, if you don't buy me that toy, I'll hold my breath until I turn blue, a very brave parent might call their bluff by saying, okay, go ahead then, knowing the child will have to breathe eventually.
Exactly. A classic low-stakes example of calling a bluff.
So, to call someone's bluff means to challenge someone to prove their claim or threat because you believe they are pretending or bluffing. Ready to hear Mia and Mark use this idiom?
Let's listen in. I wonder what empty threat or deception might be getting challenged in their story.
Mark, I had a really frustrating interaction with that freelance designer we sometimes use and the one who is very talented but can be a bit unreliable. I asked him for a quote on a new project.
Oh, Jason, yes, his work is great, but his timekeeping isn't. What happened? Did he give you a quote?
He did, but it was much higher than his usual rates. And when I questioned it, he told me it was because he was incredibly busy and had received a huge long-term project offer from a major competitor. He implied that if we didn't accept his high price immediately, he'd take the other offer and be unavailable for months.
That sounds like a pressure tactic. Do you think he really had another big offer? Or was he just trying to get more money out of us?
Honestly, Mark, something about the way he said it didn't feel right. It felt like a bluff. He seemed a bit too eager to tell me about this other offer, so I decided to call his bluff. I told him, well, Jason, that sounds like a fantastic opportunity for you, and we wouldn't want to stand in your way. Congratulations, and we'll be in touch if we have other projects in the future.
You did? That was a bold move. What happened next? Did he take the other offer?
Not at all. About an hour later, he called me back and said there had been a misunderstanding about the other project, and he would be happy to do our project at his usual rate after all. I called his bluff, and he completely folded.
That dialogue perfectly illustrates the idiom. Mia, suspecting that the freelance designer was bluffing about another job offer to get a higher price, decided to call his bluff by pretending to accept his story, which forced him to reveal that he was indeed not being truthful, and to back down from his demands.
Exactly. The idiom captured her courageous decision to challenge his suspected deception, which resulted in a successful outcome for her. It was a classic case of calling a bluff and winning.
It's a very common and powerful idiom for dealing with suspected pretense or empty threats.
It is. So next time you suspect someone is bluffing and you decide to challenge them, remember the idiom, you are going to call their bluff.
And we'd love to hear if you've ever had to call someone's bluff. What was the situation and what happened? Share your stories of courage in the comments below this episode.
We always appreciate reading your comments and insights. Well, Jack, we've explored 4 more really insightful and useful idioms in this episode of Idiom Insights.
We certainly have, Emma. Just to recap for everyone tuning into Idiom Insights today, we learned
Scratch the surface, meaning to deal with or understand only a small, superficial part of a much larger and more complex subject.
a chip off the old block, used to describe a son or daughter who is very similar in character or appearance to one of their parents.
Babe in the woods, referring to a naive, innocent, and inexperienced person who is vulnerable in a new situation.
And call someone's bluff, meaning to challenge someone to prove their claim or threat because you believe they are pretending or bluffing.
4 more fantastic additions to your English idiom repertoire. Remember, the best way to make these phrases a natural part of your vocabulary is to actively listen for them in real-life conversations and media, and then to build your confidence by trying to use them yourself in appropriate contexts.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to experiment. The more you use them, the more comfortable and fluent your English will become, and the more you'll be able to express nuanced meanings with flair.
And if you enjoyed learning with us today, and we sincerely hope you did, please consider giving this episode of Idiom Insights a like and leaving us a positive review on your podcast platform. Your support helps us reach more learners and continue creating this content.
And make sure you hit that subscribe or follow button for Idiom Insights so you don't miss any of our future episodes, where we'll continue to unravel the wonderful and sometimes witty world of English idioms.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure exploring these phrases with you.
Keep learning, keep listening, and we'll talk to you again next time on Idiom Insights.
Goodbye, everyone.
See ya!